Well, let's get started. Again, welcome to your March 2022 NAL Talking Circle. Let's go ahead and get this claimed.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
Okay, now that we've been disclaimed, let's move on to our Talking Circle agenda. At first, we're going to go over some announcements. We've got some dates that you need to be aware of. And then our discussion points. We're going to be talking about identifying culturally appropriate materials as well as identifying native language materials. And I know in the last 2 days, I've sent out some emails to give you some prompts, some think abouts in order to come to this talking circle and be prepared. So I hope you got a chance to look over that. If not, I know you're very familiar with your program, and we look forward to everyone's participation. And then, of course, at the end, we are going to be rounding off our talking circle with upcoming events, reminding you of all the opportunities for technical assistance and working with each other and getting your questions answered, all those different opportunities. So let's get rolling. Oh, sorry. So today we're joined by Dr. Donna Sabers Burns. She's the discretionary group leader as well as the NAL interim program officer. Hey, Donna.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Mhm. And then, of course, this is me. I'll be your facilitator. I'm Oleni with the OIE Technical Assistance Team. So let's go over some announcements. You might want to get out your pencil and paper so you can make sure you got these dates. Your APR for this year will be due Friday, April 29th, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That would be, you need to have it submitted in G5 by that time. We will be having a NAL APR webinar coming up on Thursday, April 7th from 1 to 2:30. You're going to want to attend that. It's got lots of information regarding how you can successfully provide all the information that will help your program officer understand what you've been up to since October. So you really want to make sure. Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, I was just going to emphasize that this is very, very, very important. We will be rolling out a new tool, optional tool to help you along with taking us through, because we really need to focus on getting the appropriate data collected and so forth. And this is going to help you immensely. So please put it on your calendar, share it all over the place with your colleagues. And we need to have at least one person from each grant program there. So if you can't, please designate someone from your office to join us. So at least there's somebody who can share the information. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, we've got some new tools to help you be successful at completing your APR, as well as, so you might want to, I see Sarah put in the chat, feel free to invite your entire team. And so, whoever is involved in your evaluation, maybe even your fiscal officer, invite them there. So again, it's a great opportunity to bring all the key components and the key staff involved in your program to that webinar. And yeah, I there's a great comment. Reporting is a team sport, and so definitely this APR webinar will help the team get all on the same page. And in order to prepare to come to the webinar, you may want to bring your performance measure data, as well as some budget information. Because it is sort of workshoppy in the sense that you'll have the opportunity to sort of look at the forms and begin to think and look at your data and begin to think about what goes where and how you're communicating your data, whether it's your GEPRA or your performance measures, as well as all of the other great information that you want to make sure you're sharing with OIE. And so bring those goodies along with you. Okay. So I just want to reiterate again, talking circles are a time for you folks to share and have conversations, really to create a collective program success so that we all get better together. You folks are some of the most important resources as far as like best practices out there, and you can really help each other. Both maybe you don't know how to do something, and so asking, this is where you want to ask your fellow grantees for help, what they're doing, what's working for them, as well as, I know sometimes we feel like if we share what we're doing, it may seem like we're being boastful, but really, it's really can be very helpful for others who are maybe going through the same thing as you or are sort of looking for answers. And so it's not boastful, I just think it's very helpful and important sharing because so that we all get better. And of course, everyone's voice is valuable. And so whether it's a question or a solution, those are all, your voice is welcomed here. It's also a safe place to share successes and challenges, new learning and questions. Again, I just want to reiterate that this is it's not boastful to share your successes. It helps your fellow grantees. And so I really want to encourage you to share. Okay, with that said, let's get into it. And so I guess maybe a couple months ago, there was a workshop around cultural and language materials and how different programs are selecting that. And so it was a really interesting topic, and we wanted to get you folks, as being professionals in this field, to provide maybe share how you are doing it, and so that we could understand the larger landscape around cultural and language material selection. And so here are some of the questions we first wanted to start off discussing. The first question is really how do you identify what materials you need as it relates to cultural and language materials? I'm going to be quiet for a little bit and let any of you folks come off of mute and share. How do you, let's take language for example. How do you identify what materials you need, whether it's a book, whether it's posters, whether it's maybe flashcards, any type of educational materials?
I guess I could talk a little bit or
Thank
quickly
you.
about
Thank
that.
you.
So how do we identify what materials you need? If you're talking about language, we want to have a high quality, educational system here
Mhm.
for our students. So we have to ensure that so when you're talking about what materials do you need? Well, we need all the materials. We need
Mhm.
technology, we need flashcards, we need books. I mean, all the things that you would have in a rigorous educational system. We need those things language-wise. Language-wise, we need those things to ensure success for our students. Culture is different. That's a lot different. I mean, it's not different, but it is different because we can do things in mathematics and stuff that's just purely language stuff. Whereas like when we go into anything else like reading or science or social studies, then we want to connect to culture all the time, right?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
so if we're trying to connect those materials culturally, then we have to create almost everything. We have to create everything because we're creating the books, we're creating the flashcards, we're creating the technology um, that centers around the vocabulary, that centers around those curriculum areas.
Yeah.
So I mean, we try to look at grade, we look at, how much vocabulary they've come with, how much vocabulary are we moving forward with? What do we expect for first graders to know? What do we expect for second graders to know?
Mhm.
So it's very intensive and I don't know if that's an easy
Yeah.
question to answer.
No, I know there's no real easy answer. So it sounds like, Matthew, you guys are creating a lot of the materials. You're identifying the need and then creating those materials. Is that correct?
Yeah, we create, I mean, we try to get as much stuff as we can, but I mean, just like any other language program, the resources are limited. And they're
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I mean, we have adult learning stuff, but we don't have there's very little done in like um, Lakota language, medium education materials. So
Mm-hmm.
that creation has to all come from us.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? How do you identify the materials that you need?
Not
Hey,
not not to repeat everything that the individual said prior,
Mhm.
but I think the more important part is where do we find inspiration to create the materials? Because identifying is like to make that discussion, that large discussion, into a tiny phrase is like everything. We need everything. Everything we look at is a material we need. But again, it's finding that inspiration and finding the resources available.
Mhm.
Um, we're our program. We're at a public school, and so we have to maneuver around time allotted for language instruction. So that itself is another just another phenomenon aspect of language revitalization we deal with. So one of the things that we've identified that we need is time.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
how do we get it is again, we kind of have to be kind of shake a few feathers. um and also too, it's just like every program doesn't a program may have the technology to do something, but they might not have that individual with the editing skills to create film or to preserve the materials we have. Or you have someone who does have those skills and they don't have the technology necessary to perform. um I guess a big thing is like identifying how to present the materials to students is the most important part. Because again, like my analogy, the way I always look at language revitalization is everybody's thirsty, and often we're only able to get them small drinks of water,
Yeah.
nothing that's quite nourishing, just kind of they get tastes here and there. And we also don't want to waterboard them and drown them in the language as well, because it does need to be transferred in
Mhm.
a holistic way. So determining how, again, like what materials are suitable for K through 12 is another aspect that we're going. And part of the way that we're going through it is just through this grant. We have created a kind of a team from every building, K through 12, to get together and help create materials that will all be copacetic together. Because it's another thing that we as a program are really trying very hard to establish, is a consistency of writing it from K through 12. And that's another material we've identified that is beneficial for our students to have the same, what would you say, signal
Mm.
K through 12 with how we're writing the language. Um, and again, we've identified a lot of the things we need, but now again, the way we approach it, and hopefully we're doing it good right now with getting a team together and having them all create materials. So they'll get away from the classroom, and because the stress involved with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Um, I see there's a question in the chat, I guess related to the gap, Robert, you were talking about. How do you fill those gaps when the skills are not there? And I think that was, you're talking about the technological skills and the maybe the language skill. So is it the team that you're bringing together that you've created, you're using to try to fill that gap?
Yeah, part of it for us is the resources and a physical space. We have the technology and the skill sets to create films, if you will, and sketches but we don't have the time nor building space. Because just, I don't know how other programs are. There's just a constant theme that, like, I mean, our office, we're kind of like in a basement of our oldest building, and we're going to be getting kicked out of here in a few years because it's going to have renovation. So I always joke around and say we're the landless department. We should be like the one department who has land. So again, how do we go about that? Right. We have access to all these other buildings that do have
Yeah.
space. We do have to like work and negotiate with the people who control that space. But for the most part, we're pretty lucky. Our department, we're pretty fortunate that our school board, our superintendent, and many other staff and principals, they really support us a lot. So we are able to get that space. But
Awesome.
when it comes to getting that technology and identifying what we need, again, you just need to talk to an expert on that. What is the best editing technology out there, and what are you looking for? If you're looking for something simple, you don't want to shoot for the most complex editing software out there, because you're not going to be doing big time special effects.
Right.
Just something so that you can easily chop and move audio around and move pictures around. If you don't have the skills necessary for that, and you do have the technology, I could just reassure you that if you do get a good training, take good notes. Again, those skills are they're pretty simple. Editing is actually a really simple thing as soon as you learn it. Learning the rules is harder than doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Time consuming, but something that's time consuming isn't necessarily hard.
Yeah.
How do we fit the gaps between language growth? That's another thing that all programs are trying to identify, and we as well are identifying it. But one of the templates that we use is ASLA, the Accelerated Second Language Acquisition Method. It has a series of sets, if you will, and each set focuses on yes, you're focusing on vocabulary and gaining vocabulary, but the sets are primarily focused on syntactical structures and the complexity, so that it builds upon each other. And for instance, the first set, you will just do nouns. The second set, you enter into verbs. So a man is running. The set after that, you get into prepositions. So you'll get a man is running on the road. A man is running in the water. A man is running under the clouds, and so on and so forth. The set after that is you introduce plurals. Men are running on the road. 4 men are running on the road. And then you just get the complexity there. Then you start adding in anything you want. A man in the blue shirt is running on a road, while the man in the red shirt is running in the water. And then you just work on grammatical, syntactical things by introducing them very slowly, so that they use what they know to decipher what they don't know. And the way that ASLA works is it works on a series of images, so that it's not a sink or swim method as much as the answer is right in front of them. If you will, it's kind of the same as algebra, where you're given you're given like 10 times x equals 100.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, I have part of the formula and I have my answer. I just have to figure x.
Yeah.
And the logical brain, human beings, we have a very good ability to be logic despite our experiences with humanity. But we're really good problem solvers. We're really good problem solvers. And if we give the language in a way that they have enough materials to discover that problem, then they figure out those syntactical structures. So
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Before we go on to a further discussion, there's a poll that I wanted to share with you. It's a poll regarding, what you just mentioned, culturally appropriate materials for our learners. Like, how do you have more than you need? Do you need more? do you have enough or do you not know? Like, so maybe you don't know what you need. So if you could just complete that poll, and we'll take a look at that. That's again just what you're talking about, Robert, just sort of brought to mind about, what is currently out there as it relates to culturally appropriate materials and how you folks sort of see where you're at. Okay, looks like we're both at, we're coming in at, we have some, but we need more, and then we don't have enough, which is kind of the same. Awesome. Thanks for taking that poll. So let's move on to the next question or the next discussion point. How do you locate resources? And I know you're saying that a lot of you are creating these resources, and you also mentioned, I think, Robert, ASLA as a resource. What are the other resources that you're connecting to in order to get both cultural and language educational materials?
We this is Alana.
Hi, Alana.
We turn to our elders,
Okay.
and we've been doing our elder immersion language with the elders here. And the first time we had it, there was only like 2, but I believe it was because COVID, and we had about 6 or 7 deaths. So
Mm.
I think people were really cautious
Mhm.
to come. And then this last time we had a few more, and I'm hoping we'll get more as we go continue on. But that's mainly where we turn to, along with books and the dictionaries that we have out there already.
Yeah. And maybe if I could ask you a little further, Alana, when you say you bring in the elders, are they working with the students or are they helping you develop materials?
Yeah,
Or
they're starting
both?
to help us develop, different things.
Mhm.
A couple of them have started to help us develop little short stories. And one of the teachers, along with the help of an elder, developed a story where you kind of fill in like the 2 animals and what they were doing. They were carrying a red coat, running down the road. You kind of use the language to fill in the gaps, like the
Ah,
color, the body part, the like the bear would wear a red hat,
mhm.
and the skunk wore red shoes or orange shoes. And they had the students develop their own stories like that, but
Mm.
they filled in like who, what, and they made this little story. And it was kind of really cute because you think that's so awesome when an elder kind of contributes to,
Yeah.
because and that's where I always go to first, is my elders, because they have really cute ideas on how to try to get the interest of the kids. And then we not only do the cushions for 30 minutes at a time at the school, but we are now in the after school program where we can in the culture. And so we've been bringing in, develop your own medicine bag, do your own cradle board, decorate it how you want. And then we talk about, like today, we're going to talk about, okay, I got your picture and you're in this cradle board. How do you feel? Is on Nisinga, the Gija Nisinga. Do I feel good? Do I not feel good?
Mm. Nice.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk about that today. And then last week we did one where we developed teepees. We talked about the teepees and the meaning of the poles, the way they were positioned, what each meaning of the teepee was.
Nice.
And we did that through the language. And then we also did one where just a couple of ladies did the fry bread. And they told them that, some of the words we had to make up words for, like salt and pepper and, things that Indians never had. So we kind of, and then we were talking about like, how would we say computer, Shoshone or Paiute, or how would we say printer, or telephone?
Right.
And so, yeah, I always turn to the elders first because I feel like, they have these great ideas, but they're not letting it out. I mean, because they're like to tell us, don't teach a lot of people to speak your language. They're kind of stuck on that.
Mm.
But I find it like interesting. They may say that, but when they come to the school and they start developing stuff with this, their input and their interests, they're like, oh, this is interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
this is just taught at the school, just to the kids, and I'm like, yeah, because we need that for the students.
Mm-hmm.
And 99% of our school is compiled native of our tribe, or
Mm.
our tribe and another tribe. So I said it's really, it's something to watch them just kind of glow with excitement when they start thinking, oh well, why don't you try this,
Right.
So it's more valuable to me than a book. Reading Shoshone or Paiute in a book, it's more valuable,
Right.
because they're actually in there showing you what they learned when they were little,
Right.
and life skills. Like one of the elders said, why don't you teach them about washing their face and how they're supposed to keep good hygiene, and
Mhm.
and she was talking about things like that. So they bring in ideas that maybe when we get stuck on just so absorbed on, okay, this is our lesson plan, this is what we're going to do today, they bring a different light into what we're teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing resource for sure, and I know a lot of programs think about like, you know, mm, just like how do we capture that for to pass down from one generation to the next.
Mhm.
So that's great, and I love the way that you guys are doing language in action, based in cultural practices.
Mhm.
Awesome. I see Lisa. Oh, I see two people, Matthew and Lisa's chiming in about yes, first speakers are invaluable to curriculum development, and also, turning to the elders definitely. So, sounds like you folks all sort of utilize that resources, maybe a foundational resource, and try to build your materials from there.
Yeah.
Um,
We also take like little storybooks, like um, Brown Bear,
mm-hmm.
and change it into our own words. And we
Yeah.
tell the story, and we actually have a bear. And then we have another bear that puts on his hat, puts on his coat, puts on his pants, puts on his shoes. But we teach him in our language, what each part of the clothes are and the body part. And they love that. And
Yeah.
then we do the hokey pokey song in Paiute and Shoshone. We do the Thumbkin song. My teachers are very determined to really, really get a good report. So
Yeah.
they said, can we try this? I was like, well, it's out there. Let's just develop it,
Right.
change it into our words so that, we have it there for our kids.
Yeah. I know when in with Hawaiian language, a lot of the first books were basically English books, and teachers would print out on the computer, the Hawaiian translation, and then actually like cut with scissors and paste in the book. Do you folks do that a lot too, in order just to create, access to more materials?
Um, we have,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a, like, say for a little coloring. I don't know if you guys could see that,
Yeah.
but it's a little coloring, and it has our Indian words on it, our
Yeah.
native language on it, to
Nice.
identify the little ones. Because the teachers are finding out that elementary, like pre-K, just don't sit still they have to be active. So that's where the song and dance come in.
Yeah.
First graders are a little bit kind of normal. So they're kind of into coloring and they love coloring and, writing. So we develop stuff for that. Then we're finding ourselves developing stuff for like third, fourth graders.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fifth and sixth graders are a little bit more, they kind of get bored with little stuff like that. So that's where we start developing the sentences, like Robert said, see the dog run, see
Yeah.
what color dog run, what was the dog doing? He's running,
Right.
all in our language.
Right.
And we're trying to get, now what we're trying to do is get the kids to answer us back. Like I'll say, Ninaniha Alana. My name is Alana. And then they'll say, Hagaya Naniha. My Ninaniha Alana. Hagaya Naniha. My Ninaniha Brent,
Yeah.
So we're trying to get them to answer us back. Some kids are shy,
Mm-hmm.
but some kids are just out there and they'll say, well, we master the language.
Nice. Thanks, Alana, for sharing. Anyone else? I mean, like, are you folks, because as you are needing to create materials, having to take, even though it might not be the best culturally appropriate, taking English language books and translating them into your native language?
I have a couple quick comments. I got it. Then I
Yeah.
have to step off. But so number one, the elders has been. So I'm sure that everybody's had the same experience. The last year's been so tough, like not being able to utilize our elders very efficiently because of COVID, and you don't want like, you're scared about the elders being around the kids. You're scared about, or we are anyway, about the elders catching COVID.
Yeah.
So we've been like super careful about that, and it's been definitely detrimental to the program. But I don't know what else to, just safety first. So
Yeah.
the thing that we've done with books lately is that we used to do this. We used to do it. They did it everywhere else, tape
Yeah.
and cut, and then what we've been doing lately though is we've been really trying to draw, like do stuff with the high school kids, drawing books, and then doing a lot of like, so like we have like Kids A to Z, the Kids A to Z program, where it's like, this is my elbow, this is my whatever, nose and stuff. But so we've been trying to rewrite those books, but use pictures of our own kids.
Yeah.
So we've made about, I don't know, 250 books that just have pictures of
Wow.
our own kids. So the brown kids that live here, the pictures of the background is the community, it's Pioneers
Yeah.
Reservation, it's the animals from this community. So that's what we've really tried to make a move so that the kids are represented inside the literature.
Nice.
And so it's the same books that they would read in any other reading program, pretty similar, I guess. But
Mhm.
instead of just cutting and pasting over those pictures, we're replacing the pictures with our own pictures of our own kids. And so that's how we've been doing it lately.
I love it. And how do the older kids feel about when they, create that book? I mean,
Yeah,
what do you think?
it's a wonderful opportunity to get everybody involved, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
the younger kids right now are in immersion. So those are the kids that are speaking Lakota.
Mhm.
But then the older kids that still want to feel like they're a part of the language movement and feel like they're a part of their own, liberation, I guess, whatever,
Yeah.
their opportunity to do those kind of things really puts them in a feeling of power, I guess.
Right.
I'm part of the process. I can't be in revitalization right now because I'm 16, 17,
Yeah.
15, but I can do this to provide it. And it's also getting us, like, we're looking at long term is we need to grow our own teachers. I'm sure
Yes.
that like everyone here, especially on the mainland, has lots of non-native teachers in their school systems. And I mean, that's like, I remember one time someone was saying that like America's school system is 80% white females or something like that. Like that's the teachings.
Yeah.
So reimagining how our teachers look for our students, reimagining and creating that workforce is like starts putting that, if you're putting that in their head when they're 16, 17, or 18, they're seeing that as a profession, which earlier I don't think, it's very rare for kids from the reservation to come back and be teachers. That was rare. So
Huh. That's an interesting, I like that idea. I mean, it's an interesting take on, maybe a long-term outcome of, getting older kids involved in the language at the level, and then also creating the resources you need. Great idea. Maybe even creating future teachers, like you said. Awesome. It just amazes me, I mean, like I know with like native language, a lot of times it's building the plane while you're flying it, and it just all the work that goes around the native language programs, not just the materials, but then the teacher development, thinking beyond. So awesome. Thanks for sharing, you guys. Let's move on to the next slide. And so here are some considerations. It was interesting when I was getting preparing the talking circle. I did some research, well, actually quite a lot of research around identifying cultural materials and native language materials. And I found, some really good stuff on the cultural educational materials, but there wasn't much out there around native language, really, which really kind of struck me. A lot of it was about um, English as a second language, but not too much research regarding native language educational materials, what was out there and what was a process. But there was a lot of good stuff around cultural materials. And so, again, I'm sure I'm like preaching to the choir when it comes to, things you want to look at as it relates to culturally appropriate materials. One of them is authenticity. Of course, wanting to make sure that that material is reflecting what is authentic to a particular culture. Also, that materials show Indigenous people yesterday and today, and so that they are not just people of the past, but that they continue on today, and they contribute to society, and wanting to make sure that materials reflect that. Also, diversity. Really looking at the nations of America, of indigenous people, and that it's not just Native Americans or Indians, but that there are diversity with even among Native peoples. Also, looking for materials that are respectful in language, making sure that they are not subscribing. What would you call it? Beliefs that are subjugating. And for example, expressions like sit Indian style or walk in an Indian file, with these terrible ideas about Indian giver, like getting rid of all of those sort of stereotypical, nonsensical types of language. Also, looking for materials that have positive images of Native American, both again in the past and today as well. And then, of course, relevance, looking for materials that are relevant to the community, to the learner, making sure that the materials are relevant to, well, what may be relevant to a first grader may be different from being 12th grader. And so these are some of the considerations I found. Are there any other considerations as it relates to cultural materials that you folks sort of look for when you're looking for materials to be sharing and using in your classrooms or in your programs? Beyond these, or maybe a different way in which you look at any of these considerations. No, do these all sort of make sense? They resonate with you folks? Yeah. And so I wanted to share, I found some
One
as
thing
a,
I'd like to add in there is be trauma informed.
mm,
It's really our whole district is doing better, and we're really learning, and we really take great pride in being a trauma informed school district.
Mhm.
where there are like certain protocols that we have for students put in place whenever anxiety or stress will meet them within the classroom as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's implied. There's no doubt about it that we all work within being trauma informed. So it is implied. There's no doubt about it. But I really do think, just as like diversity,
Yeah.
positive image is implied too. So I just think that would be really valuable to also add in there because that's a topic of language revitalization that I guess linguists, your westernized linguist isn't going to be equipped to talk about
Yeah.
is trauma that is associated with losing your language, but also even trying to regain your language.
Yes.
There's a lot of trauma there, and there's a lot of emotions. Because I really do think our language, when we try to revitalize it, I really do believe that's when we see ourselves, our other tribal members, almost at their most sensitive.
Mm.
Sensitive in many ways, sensitive of oh, that's not how my mom, that's not how my grandma said it. Which is coming from a place of sensitivity and so on and so and people are afraid to misenunciate it because they don't want to be criticized,
Yes.
which is really interesting because we do come like our res. We really like to joke around and tease people. People love it. People love to be teased. But again, when it comes to our language, that sensitivity comes in.
Mm.
And I'm not gonna lie if I didn't say I was never frustrated with certain students and colleagues in terms of how to go about teaching and also just other reactions to being instructed. But what's important is that I remember that language revitalization is new for all of us. It's something that we were never prepared for. We're all learning how to do it together.
Yeah.
And understanding that a lot of these issues that happen in the classroom arise from the trauma of colonization. Um, it's not an excuse, but it's something we can remind ourselves to I guess alleviate stress from that classroom, to remind ourselves this is what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm having conflict with this individual, but the conflict lies in colonization. You know,
Yeah.
uh, remove. I don't know. So trauma informed.
Yeah. No, I like that, and I like the connect you're making. I think that's an interesting connection between, the trauma of losing your language and then the process of regaining it. And like you said, like the sensitivity around the language, Um, yeah, I that's an interesting connection that I never thought of. Anyone else have want to chime in on that, or maybe another aspect that you sort of look at when you're thinking about bringing in culturally appropriate materials into the classroom? No? Okay, we'll move on. Again, thank you, folks, for sharing. It's, so when we come to thinking about the native language materials, I know, we've already discussed about how do we locate those materials. And again, I was, doing some research and trying to find where these materials are located. And so there's a poll that should be popping up to just sort of get a sense about maybe some of your sources of these materials. And this is relates to specifically language books. Okay, looks like we all need more books,
You can never have enough.
right?
Are you saying more books like in kids' books type thing, or are you looking at talking about curriculum books?
I think across the board,
Okay.
and so that's a great question. I mean, as we, books is like this big idea, and as we parse them apart, are there particular areas that you have specific needs in right now? Um, like I know with Hawaiian language, we've created a lot of fiction, but we need more nonfiction. We need more language science books versus, we have quite a lot of like stories that we've taken. Math books, we've yet to sort of like fully translate and make it from a cultural. And so I'm just wondering, what are your sort of needs as it relates to language materials and even books?
I can imagine that children's book for all of our languages are few and far between. But there is this trend of more publishing houses that are really looking at trying to publish more Indigenous books, or whether it's incorporating the language or in the language of itself. But I'm on a couple of different book foundations and assemblies that I really see more being done, and more Native authors, more Native illustrators. And that's a great thing. First time, and I've seen the trend going upward when it comes to books. And so I'm really curious on your feedback and what you're seeing from where you're at.
Is anybody working with maybe a publisher or maybe a partnership with a university who is working with a publisher? Oh, looks like Lisa's putting in.
Birch Bark is awesome. Lee and Low is another one. There's Orca Publishers, just off the top of my head, but there's more.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I do book reviews, and I just received one this morning, as a matter of fact. Let me go check to see where that one's from.
Okay. And I have a couple of links I'm going to put in the chat of some resources I found. There we go. There's some different resources.
Would you be able to take all those links and send them to us in an email?
Sure, I can do that after when we're finished.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the good resources, if you can find like a native museum or a university program connecting to larger, and even like Donna was saying, publishing houses, developing a partnership with a potential developing, like taking those, Matthew's not on here, but taking Matthew's student created books and seeing if a publisher wouldn't mind putting a hardcover on that, or maybe distributing that out, creating more. I know, yeah, there's lots of pieces that go into that. Robert, do you folks make your own materials, or are you strictly using that ASLA,
ASLA. Well,
AL?
ASLA is a method. Everything you have to create your own materials.
Ah,
That method. It's just a method, sort of like I don't know, the way that you would apply a defense to.
I see. So it doesn't come with readers or you have to create all that on your own. I see.
Which is unfortunate. But we are creating our own materials. As a matter of fact, we did get we contracted a speaker to record a lot of like key phrases for us that would build up that syntactical thing. Unfortunately, at the moment, I haven't had enough time to edit it to give to our staff, but I mean, we still have a few months left in the year, so they will begin it throughout this school year.
Okay.
We're gonna be working with some students to create words of the day, where they read it and they say it, because I can do it, but if the community sees hears our students do it, I just think it's better. we've created a lot of signs, and we're printing out a lot of signs, just in labels. I mean, again, the identifying materials, we need everything. So we're trying to create as much stuff we could. The
Yeah.
unfortunate, I guess what happens with that is sometimes, like, I'll begin a project, and then I'm like, oh, we need this. And then I'll begin another project. Oh, we need this, another project. Now I got
Yeah.
3 projects that are halfway done, and
Yeah.
I'm myself. But that's just, I guess, just venting.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
no, I mean, again, just as you said, we're building the airplane as we fly, and that's just the reality of language revitalization programs.
Mm.
That we operate within a Western educational world. We operate in a capitalistic society, and all those things come into play and affect our and give our language program drawbacks.
Mhm.
So again, creating things, we want to create. Again, we're really determined to do small little puppet videos, and just thinking out loud right now. They'll be on YouTube, they'll be on Facebook, on TikTok, and actually, it would be worth running a survey with all your adolescents on up, asking how many of because
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of against TikTok. I'll hop on there and do words here and there.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the students in my district will see me and go, "Hey, you're that guy on TikTok says Indian words." So I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just something to think about with
Yeah.
the departments, because there are billions of people on TikTok, and there are millions of Indians on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah. All that work around like normalizing the language, right? I mean, so there's instruction and then it's making it a normal, particularly on mediums that, teenagers are going to, you know, that's that's a great idea. And so it looks like Sarah's putting some other resources in there about what Anchorage has used in the chat. She's thrown some things. And two previous guys worked with the Language Conservancy to create workbooks and a few other materials. Again, two other great resources that you may want to think about, doing a phone call and seeing if they wouldn't mind partnering in some way. Alana, you folks are creating your own materials, right?
Right. Yeah. Through the SciLab program a couple years back, they developed books already in the Shoshone language.
Uh-huh.
And so we have those, but be very, very careful to copyright your stuff when you work with these publishers, because sometimes you'll run into that litigation where they said it's theirs,
Yes.
and the lady turns around and tells me I owe her $15 for a book.
Right.
And I said, are you ridiculous? Because what are you trying to do? Have me buy my own language back?
Right.
So there was a dispute about that. So I'm just cautioning everybody, be careful what you do, especially when you work with publishers and stuff. Make sure you copyright your stuff for the tribe, or under your name, or some way to preserve it for your community.
yeah, I agree with that with Alana there, that like copywriting our language is so essential and critical. And I really do think that we need to figure out how to navigate that before we bring outsiders in. Just as again, like a prenuptial agreement. Um, so I mean, that could leads me to question: do you guys know any resources that like give training for understanding copywriting and trademarking, or any valuable resources out there that would aid us so that we could go
Well,
about?
if you're like us, if you're working with the university, you can specifically say, we want this as our property. We want our copyright on it. We want our name on it. Like a lot of the books that I developed or the things that we're developing are little program booklets or cartoons or whatever, I'm putting courtesy of Shoshone Paiute tribes on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Or
don't know anything offhand. It looks like Sarah put some other resource or experiences in the chat, but I mean, that's one thing I can look into and maybe share at the next talking circle is some resources related to copywriting and language. So I'll go look that up and see what we can find. And then maybe I'll share those resources at the next talking circle. Awesome. So yeah, those are considerations. You know, again, I remember back we created bilingual books in a school I was working with, and you know, you think you're gonna sell the books and make money, but the actual amount you actually get to the student for a book is when it has to be made someplace else, and it's beautiful books, but you're not really actually making a lot of money to actually put back into the program. So.
right.
But that wasn't the goal, really. It was just
No.
to get more language books out. Awesome. And so, I guess the other question I wanted to ask, I mean, Robert, it sounds like you're aligning a lot of your books to that method that you're using. I was wondering, Alana, because you are reintroducing the language into your classrooms, and it's, uh, you're going in and then you're coming out. It's not in an immersion setting. How do you determine what students get what level of language materials? Are they
Well,
all getting the same, or what does that
they're-
look like?
in a way, they're all getting the same. Like the kindergartners, we use visual.
Hmm.
Like say for numbers, we use visual like little teddy bears,
I
something
see.
cute, that catches their attention.
Yeah.
And then we tell them, okay, color the teddy bears on them, which is brown. And some of them come from a language speaking family, so they know what brown is.
I see.
And so they'll color it that. So they're kind of, and then we change it around a bit with the numbers, and we ask them what sima plus sima,
I
and they understand, 1 plus 1.
Okay.
And then they'll say what, 2. So it just depends on like the level. So
I
like 4th graders, we develop a little bit more. 5th graders, we're using the sentences because we want them to actually speak back to us fluently. But the little ones are catching on to,
fast. Yeah.
yeah, because when we start speaking, just standing there speaking, they already know what we're saying, and then they're just going to answer us back
Yeah.
without even thinking about it. They'll just answer us back, and I'm like, wow, okay, this little kindergarten just asked me what my name was.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Or they'll say, see you later now, when we're ready to go, and you're like, ah.
Yeah. Those are the moments you just want to capture, right? I mean, those
Yeah,
are.
and I always wish like I had a videotape or a recorder on me that was on all the time, because even when I'm, just go there to talk to the staff or talk to the principal, they see me in the hall, they'll be speaking, and it's just like awesome. It's like, wow, we're actually making a, change here.
Right.
So, and then even people on the outside, like last week, one of the cashiers says, oh, I think you guys are really doing an awesome job, because she counted her dollar bills, $1 bills to the cashier.
Oh my gosh.
Joni, she says, somewhat will have to buy money. And the cashier said, she said, I looked at her and I thought, what the heck she's doing? And then she said, 1, 2, 3, 4, and putting her money down.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah, and she said it surprised her, and it just kind of made her tear up, because she said, you guys, you may not think you're doing anything, she said, but you guys are doing something here.
Yeah. You might want to capture that quote and see if you can ask that person if they can use that quote, because that's a real strong measure of, the impact your program is making from somebody outside in the
Well, I
community.
actually asked them already. There
Oh,
was
good.
another one that made a comment about the fry bread. Oh my God, I didn't know you guys were doing this after school. You know, my daughter and now her sister wants to join you guys and learn the language and learn how to make fry bread and you know, just different things that we're doing. The kids want to, you know, join, and they keep trying to change their classes after school, but you know, the school has, you know, you be in there this class for 2 weeks and you can change to music or art or whatever, then the other student, then you have the opportunity to go there
Yeah.
the next 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I told the teachers, don't be surprised if we get hit with all the students one day. It seems every time we meet after school, we get a person, and then the other teacher comes running over and she says, I'm missing one of my art students. And that little kid has joined our crowd.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
That's, oh, I'm glad you're capturing that. That's really good. So, Robert, you mentioned that the teachers are involved in creating your materials. You actually create a time where they can get together and do that type of work. Is that correct?
Yes, that is very correct. We because a lot of them request for flashcards and such. Um, like I put together posters for animals, but I use silhouettes.
Mm,
Just because my thinking was do it as basic, as simple as possible.
yeah.
But it doesn't fit other people's aesthetic. So rather than rather than be like, no, you use what's creative, like, oh, come on in and we'll get you what you need, and then we'll even pay you to make it. Because again, a lot of teachers make these stuff on their own,
Yeah.
and they're really compensated. And also with this, which is really valuable, is that since they're making it under our supervision, if you will, we can steer it so that those materials will be spread out to everyone and have that consistency so that all of our buildings can use it, and
Mm,
because it's all in the same approach.
yeah. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about how do you carve out time for teachers to do that? And then, like, what does that look like?
Well, we were able to get them to go to workshops through this grant, and so buildings are very good at that.
Mhm.
In terms of getting time to work with them, that's another thing that we as a department are struggling and working on.
Yeah.
We get to have them on extended Wednesdays once a month, but it's really not that often that we as a whole team get to meet up. And it's
Mm,
because of our unique position in this public school, where we're a department that covers K through 12,
wow.
and specializing in a certain age group. There are, I think, like maybe SPED would do that.
Yeah.
Again, it's a different phenomena because they'll get specific students that are specific to only them, whereas all of our students are all because we run classes rather than classrooms. If
Mm,
I don't know if that might be a better way to put that. Um, so doing this actually and getting together, doing extended contracts is like a perfect way to get that time together.
ah,
And the times that we've spent together are really great. We've been doing really great team building. I
mhm.
really think that's awesome. One of the goals of our district, particularly after COVID, that they're doing is trying to focus on mental wellness. And it's not all just talk. They are actually putting their money where their mouth is in certain respects. More time could be allotted to the instructors, but that's another topic. But when it comes to the emotional part of a team, I hope and I believe we are hitting some good points with
Okay.
certain individuals. And and I can't lie and say that we're all a copacetic, happy team. There are some
Yeah.
people that have some frustrations, but I don't bring that up to vent as much as I bring it up so that I hear it out loud as a director,
Yeah.
and rather than allowing that tension to persist, try to approach it and figure out in ways that we're all on the same team because we all have the same goals.
Yes.
We may disagree on how to approach it, but
Yes.
we we need to have a common consensus for our students so that they are the ones that benefit more than anything, and that they are going K through 12 with going to the next level with the exact same skill set, and they don't have to rewrite it literally, like they don't have to start rewriting everything.
Right.
And it is beneficial. We see that with the way we teach literacy, that people are able to learn a writing system when that writing system has rules and consistency. And we have proved to ourselves and to our communities that we could adopt literacy. Unfortunately, that literacy is in our colonized language. But like I agree with you, like we need more books in nonfiction.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to read books in nonfiction in Blackfoot.
Yeah.
But one reality that again that I believe is that's not going to happen unless there's a writing system that is consistent,
Mm.
and the author has rules, and the reader could constantly understand, and there's no discrepancies or what would you say, ambiguity.
Yeah.
Um,
Huh.
so
That's,
so but again, I mean, it's gotta be, it's an uphill battle.
yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
the lives we all chose.
Yeah. Yeah. And a worthy cause for sure. Lisa, I know you're on mute and I know you've been participating in the chat, but was there anything you wanted to share? Even if you throw it in the chat, I can share it. I don't know if you are in a place where you can't talk.
Yeah, I can talk right
Oh,
now. I've
awesome.
heard
Awesome.
my stuff on here. Yeah, we've been making materials for a long time now. We did kind of start with the cut and paste over English books.
Yeah.
And we've moved away from that. We realized that we needed to have, like what you were saying earlier about books for fun, and then some nonfiction books as well, because our students are up to 8th grade now, and we do utilize elders when we can, frequently, like first speakers in specific, because there's a lot of vocabulary and kind of advanced curricular concepts that we've never really had to teach before as we get into these older grades, higher grades. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of leveled books with the younger students to really build our Ojibwe literacy program for our students, because we don't introduce English until grade 4. So we've really ramped up our efforts over the past few years to have a strong foundation in Ojibwe, in reading in Ojibwe first.
Yeah.
But the way we utilize and work with our first speakers, we've created a shared Google sheet for all of our staff to put in any words or vocabulary or concepts that they're struggling to talk about in their curriculum development. So when we have our sessions with our speakers, we can talk about all of those sessions. Like maybe we're talking about water and the properties of water, and that is something we need their assistance with, and not just giving them a word and saying, can you translate this? It's more like, discussions and relevance to real world. So if our staff are doing, water properties, and they're doing maybe a study on water in the creek nearby. So there's a way to make for elders to understand, like, this is what the students need to learn. This is what they're trying to teach them, so they can get a better understanding of oh yeah, our language, Ojibwe language, is very, like, I think they say very very action oriented. So all of our structures are very heavily verb focused. So it's hard to just pick out like words like that are nouns. So it goes through a pretty intensive process when we have to make those kinds of words for students. What's it called? Nominalization. but we also work with, we have a trained linguist who's an Algonquian Ojibwe linguist who kind of facilitates this for us.
Mhm.
And our dream is to have our own curriculum team.
Yeah.
We had some visitors from Cherokee Nation who, when we hear about other programs, we're like, oh, that sounds like such a dream. Like they have so many speakers there and so many initiatives going, but they have people that are specifically, their jobs is just to write curriculum for their immersion school.
Yeah.
So all the resources that are needed, they're identified by teachers and their speakers, and they all work together. So that's our next phase of development, is just to have full-time curriculum developers who understand the needs of the teachers, who can work with first speakers, and who and have can do illustrations too, because some of the early readers that we created, we have some talented staff on, and they've been able to make the drawings. And sometimes we use photos of the students too, because I know that really helps the kids when they see themselves in the books. They're really proud. And yeah, so we keep all of our curriculum. We have a framework developed that's very based on our seasonal cycles and activities, and yeah, that's how we're
Wow.
handling all the curriculum in the books.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But I just like, I think what you shared was so rich in the idea of, you just can't sort of take a word like you said with the water and like and go to a first speaker and say, okay, now translate this, right? It's more like the concept, and again, kind of digging into what you want to achieve with the students, and then engaging them to provide, that indigenous perspective into that, that's, and I agree, like having people dedicated to curriculum development, is definitely a need.
Yes.
Yeah. We, years back, we had gotten some money, and what we did was every week we would pull out grade bands of teachers to work on, like leveling the language and then developing the curriculum materials to go along with that, which I thought was really helpful, because you really have to engage the teachers. It's sort of engagement creation, and also capacity building at the same time, right? And getting everybody on.
I have friends and stuff that I work with, but
Uh-huh.
no actual speaker down here. No, not down here. I mean, I work with Earl, but I'm not gonna bring his name up as someone. Oh,
Robert, we could barely hear you.
I saw. I'm sorry. I was talking to my partner here.
Oh.
We're just discussing the things you guys are discussing.
Okay, cool.
Our partners, things. So yeah. Sorry about that.
No, no, no problem. I thought that might have been the case, but I was just checking. Uh, is there anything else anybody wants to share in this area? I sure learned a lot from you folks about where you're at and what you're up to, and sort of like both the daily work and then the big strategic moves, you folks might be moving into in the future. Well, let's move on. So this is just sort of our wrap up. We're going to begin. Oh, I see. Hold on a second. You might. Okay, so here's a great question. What kind of resources could we help provide from a TA perspective in this realm? I know Robert had mentioned looking up information regarding copywriting and any of the rules around that. Are there other areas that maybe your TA team could help research or provide information on as it relates to the work you have going on? Something may not pop up in your head yet, but maybe as I go through my ending, you might think about it, or even, sometimes I know, after I leave a meeting, an idea will pop in my head. I'm like, gosh, I wish I had asked that. Please, if that does pop in your head, please email us at oie@seiservices.com. If something uh, doesn't sort of like jump out at you now. Are there any thoughts before I move on again? I just want to provide some space where I'm quiet, and then you guys can think a little bit, and see if there's anything we could help you with.
Can you send us this poster of the art contest?
Sure, the information here.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'd like to have a copy because we have good artists out there. I just want them to start applying themselves because we did a little story thing on like the numbers, the colors, and we had them color pictures of what they thought natives lived like long time ago and things they used, either to eat, to hunt, or whatever.
Hmm.
And they all developed little stories, and they use the colors, they use the numbers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we can share this out with you folks. Um, oh, I see
Yeah, it
Sarah
looks like
already
Sarah
did.
just put it in the chat box too.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, this is not just for the students that are involved in your grantee program. You can share this out with your schools. I mean, this can be your tribe. This could be, or maybe even other partnering schools or community organizations, anywhere where maybe your tribe programs. So it doesn't just have to be with your grant program. We really want to get. I mean, I know in the past, what I've heard from Donna and from Julian, there's been some amazing art pieces and work that's come in. And so we're really excited to restart this for the 50th anniversary. Again, the areas of the competition are art, writing, and video. The art is open for grades early at childhood. So if you have a language nest or a preschool or kindergarten, all the way to 12th grade. The writing is really focused on students from grades 4 through 12, and as well as the video. The video is a short video, so it's only 3 minutes, and it can be a personal performance piece. So you can see all that information. Again, that information is in the chat. You can download that. The first,
I'm trying to show you
oh,
this,
there.
but it's not showing. This is when
Yeah.
I have a couple. I'm in the office today, and there's a couple of winners. I'm gonna have to take my background off. I have a couple of the framed winners from back in 2008, five. Woo.
Wow.
And I have them right here. And let me see if I can get my background off so I can show
Okay.
it to you.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the first, second, and third place winners will be announced at the 50th anniversary. So we're really sort of looking forward to that. Um, and then let's move forward as Donna hopefully shares that. Again, save the date. The project directors meeting is coming up May 10th through the 12th. So make sure you put that in your calendars. It will be virtual again, a similar format to what it was last year. We're doing some new things around networking, and new panels. And so we're really excited about what's going to be happening. But again, the same sort of virtual format. And then here are our upcoming events. Your talking circles. The next one will be April 14th, and then again June and August and September. If you clicked on the original invite, you should have these dates all in your calendar, but you might want to just note this because sometimes the technology glitches and it disappears. The other thing, again, really want to encourage you and your team members to attend the NAL APR webinar on April 7th. Again, invite any of your team members that are involved in maybe collecting data, definitely maybe your fiscal person, and your project director, anyone who would be responsible for the information going into the APR. You want to have them come along. And then also we have office hours coming up on March 24th. another thing that just got put into the chat is shortly after, I think it's 30 minutes after our, or maybe less, session today, there is a listening session uh, focused on native language, promising practices, and persistent barriers. There's the link there. You can click on that and be able to participate. It's a broad range of the audience is very broad. And so we would really love you folks to contribute into that conversation. So you can go ahead and click on that link there, and that will be starting very soon. It's the next event up on my calendar. So we're getting ready to do the end of the event poll, so that should be popping up. Oh, and then as you're doing that poll, you can take a look at the art that Donna is
Oh,
showing.
wait, I'm almost got it. There we go.
Yeah, oh, perfect.
Okay, so here's was of course one of the younger kindergarten group picture, and I wish you could see the colors. It's just beautiful.
Wow.
And then here's one of the, looks like this was pencil,
Wow.
and this was done by one of our 11th graders back in 2005. Of course, these are old. This is why we haven't had an art competition since. So they're just incredible. So incredible.
That was pencil, Donna? That's a pencil?
Colored pencil. Yep.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah.
Just-
Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
I can't wait to see what we get this year.
I know. I'm very, very excited.
Me too. Me too. So, hey, Robert, maybe, maybe one of your students, if they're doing a language video or something, you might want to have them, since you're doing that in your curriculum already, put that in as an entry into the competition. That would be great. Even, any of your books as art pieces, if they're doing art. Oh, bless you. Did somebody
love
see?
Yeah.
Sorry, I sneezed.
So awesome. And again, thank you for taking the poll. And then here are your contact information. There's Donna's email, as well as the OIE technical assistance team email. Again, if you're not on Twitter at OIE Indian Ed, might want to check that out. Not only do we post information, updated information, and what's relevant related to OIE, but also across the landscape of Native people of America. So want to go ahead and check that out. Thank you folks, for contributing today. It was a really great discussion. I want to thank you all for sharing what you folks are doing. I will, the next Talking Circle, I will get back to you regarding researching the copywriting, and then you folks have the download of the artist competition. And there was something else okay. And I will get out the links to you folks after this session of all the resources that were shared. Have a wonderful day. Hope to see you at the listening session in
Thanks,
just a little
everyone.
moment. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Take
the
care,
listening
everyone.
session does start in 5 minutes, so you have plenty of time to grab more coffee.
See you there. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Alani and
Thank
Sarah.
you.